Hey, it's Aaron, Metal Theologian. Alright, so first things first, I'm thirsty. I just got back from New England, so we're going Moxie. I actually went to Maine for the first time while I was up there too. Had a really fucking good lobster roll, but I think that brings you up to 43 states that I've been to. Little point of pride. If you're watching from overseas, that's sort of an American thing, is how many states have you been to? And most people don't give a shit. The people who are into it will like compare notes and shit. I understand that North Dakota is most people's last state. I've been to North Dakota. I worked on a project in Fargo once a long time ago. Terrible place for records, man. No record stores in Fargo. I heard there used to be one, but I actually had to go across the river to Moorhead, Minnesota to find a place that had any records. There was like a head shop that had like a couple records. It was one of the most depressing like record shopping experiences ever. So anyway, we're gonna drink Moxie. We're gonna listen to New Wave British Heavy Metal 45s because I feel like it. And we're gonna talk about the Canon. So, you know, the Canon is one of these sorts of ephemeral things in rock music, right? And, you know, I started talking about the time when I was working at the record store in the early 90s is when I really got to know the Canon. That's when I spent time listening to shit like, you know, Bob Dylan and like Led Zeppelin. I got to know better there. I mean, Bruce Springsteen, I hate to put him in there, but, you know, shit like that. You know, I mean, obviously like the Beatles, David Bowie, I suppose, is Canon. You know, it's a lot of boomer stuff for the most part, but, you know, because they dominated rock criticism till almost the present, probably, although I haven't paid attention in a long time. Anyway, Beatles, Stones, shoot of that caliber, you know, the Yardbirds I tend to think go in there. So anyway, there's the Canon, right? But I sort of have my own personal canon, I've been realizing, you know? There's like this certain class of bands where they were really sort of foundational for me as far as like the development of my musical tastes. I really spent some time thinking about this, like what records shouldn't include, because there's some where like I still listen to them a lot. Like since I was 12, I still like listen to them all the time. And there are ones where like I listen to them a lot at a certain like important period of my life as far as my musical development, but don't necessarily reach for all that much since then, you know? So this is a little bit of a cross section, I suppose, and this is, yeah, we're just going to talk about a few of them. I kind of have a lot here, so I might actually do a part 2 of this if people are interested, but yeah, this is the Metal Theologian, like, personal canon, okay? Like, if you dig all these records, then you probably dig this channel too, because you can probably sort of see where I'm coming from. It's fitting that it's right during this organ solo on this Challenger 45. I showed this Deep Purple, and I deliberately picked this one because this is the first one that I heard that really blew my mind. I mean, 24 Karat Purple was, but the main tracks were obviously on this, so this is the one I went out and bought. Not this very copy, I actually let that copy go, and I got this one. Chris's Warped Records, if I'm not mistaken, and it's actually signed. But I can't like vouch for the authenticity of the signatures, but you can see in ballpoint pen, it looks like Ian Gillan. I think that's Richie Blackmore. Ian Pace right there. Oh, right there's Roger Glover. It's not quite everyone, but, you know. This is such a bad cover on this record, by the way, too. I mean, what a waste of a gatefold is that, right? This record, though, man, Deep Purple. Pretty sure I was about 12 when I got into this band. I was friends with a guy. I was living in Germany. He was into Deep Purple, and he put me onto them, and he put me onto Foreigner, too. And honestly, I liked Foreigner more at first. But I sort of like lost appreciation for Foreigner and gained appreciation for Deep Purple. And now Foreigner's kind of, I mean, I don't hate Foreigner, but they've kind of been relegated to the bad music section. You know, I actually got rid of those records like decades ago. I just got them again because I felt like hearing some bad music. Which I made a video about a while back, so. Specific definition of bad there, right? This was just such a good band, though, man. And it was heavy and intense. And the musicianship was just incredible, you know what I mean? Like, you could hear the improvisation, but you could also hear, like, the worked out solos and shit. Like the solo on Highway Star. I mean, it's written, right? But you can really hear sort of the chemistry in the band in this thing, you know? And, like, Space Truckin', which is all of side 4 on this record and goes way off into, like, these sort of psychedelic realms and shit like that. I don't know, man, this thing just blew my mind. You know, it was really sort of a formative thing about, like, how powerful a band could be that was a really solid band. And yeah, this is an example. To this day, I mean, this isn't the copy I got when I was 12 or 13 or whatever I was, but I probably did get this. I wasn't any older than 17 when I bought this. And it's still here today. And actually, on a related note, because not long after that, I got into this band, man. I'm showing the Australia one, because I've been showing this one as often. Let There Be Rock. The gatefold and shit, because I was enough of a fan to go out and find the Australian ones, right? So let's show me inside. Yeah, I got into AC/DC around like Fly on the Wall era, so that was sort of my first exposure, and I still have a soft spot for Fly on the Wall. In fact, my good friend Chris Rankin from Perth actually sent me an Albert pressing of that, which I'm super proud of because you don't see those over here. You see the early ones, the Albert pressings occasionally over here because they look different, or this one doesn't have different songs from the European version. If you have the American version, this one does have Crab City in blue instead of Problem Child on it. Anyway, this is just like rock and roll, man. Like AC/DC is like the epitome of like rock and roll. In that, first of all, it's hard. Like it was kind of hard, you know. Like the devil shit was like. I mean, I didn't really bother like the whole like Antichrist devil child thing, but it was a little bit intimidating, Highway to Hell and shit. When I was like a religious little kid, you know. It's like just dangerous enough to sort of be like ooh, you know, but not like intimidating really, you know. Because at the end of the day, it's just rock and roll, you know. In a way, though, I'm not necessarily going to have like a coherent like summary for the effect that each one had on me. It was kind of similar for these two, but like, if Deep Purple was like the power of like a band that was really solid, like AC/DC definitely had its main personalities. You know, Angus Young and Bon Scott or Brian Johnson. You know, depending which era. I've spent a lot of time like in both camps, so that's a whole different conversation, right? Long story short, I think they're both great singers. I like the Bon Scott records more, but I think Brian Johnson is a fantastic singer. Even they didn't have like the sort of personalities. It was all sort of centered in like two people, really. You know, even though apparently it was kind of Malcolm's band, which is funny to learn like 30, 40 years after I became a fan. You know, but it's just the power of that's kind of simplicity. You know what I mean? That you could write these riffs and deliver them. Play like 2 notes on the bass for the whole song. And still have a fucking great song that like ropes you in. There's the Challenger label. I don't have a sleeve on this one. And just holds your attention and is just a fun listen. Not just once or twice, but like over and over, you know? Let's check out Chinatown. So yeah, AC/DC. I reach for Deep Purple more often than I reach for AC/DC, but AC/DC is one of those bands where when I do reach for them, I tend to listen to like a few of them, you know? In fact, I have that one sitting here. I also have this one sitting here. Power Age. Actually, this is my Euro press of this, okay? The US and the Australian presses don't have Cold Hearted Man on them, but this German one does. And I was living in Germany when I got into those guys, so I expect to hear that song on this album. I know it was a single in that box set and shit, but I don't give a shit. That's where it belongs, like in my personal, well, my headcanon, right? So yeah, AC/DC, definitely in the canon. This is a big one, man. Funkadelic. A lot of times I show Maggot Brain because Maggot Brain is the first one that I really got. That really sort of grabbed me. But Maggot Brain is like, on the one hand, it's weird parts, like the long solo that's Maggot Brain, and then like that weird like Wars of Armageddon, just like freak out at the end. And the stuff in the middle is a lot more sort of like soul. This one definitely has that groove going on, but it kind of sounds like a rock band doing it, you know? Like as soul records go, these are really rocky. I mean, as funk records go, these are really rocky. It's funny because I don't really think of these first few Funkadelics as like funk the same way they became starting around like Cosmic Slop is a funk record. You know, Standing on the Verge of Getting It On, funk record, right? But these early ones were just like huge for me, man. And I love Funkadelic anyway, man. I think I lost a lot during the Warner years. I can hang with all the Westbound ones. Fuck, I can hang with all the Warner ones too, but I have all the Westbound ones. But these first three were just like, I mean, almost unique in the history of rock music. There are a few other things I'd compare. The first two Earth, Wind & Fire records kind of end up in a similar place with that kind of groove and that sort of like rocky punch. Again, before getting more sort of funk from the third record on, also all great shit, you know. But Funkadelic was really sort of it sort of opened a new world for me, man. It really did, you know, being, you know, a white kid growing up in the suburbs, that kind of shit. I was like, oh my god, there's all this great shit that I've never heard before, you know? So yeah, very important band in my personal development, Funkadelic. This one just seems so obvious. So I actually got this one with this cover because it seemed harder to find than the other ones. But this is the Velvet Underground, and I pulled White Light, White Heat to listen to because the first three Velvet's records are all genius. You can say good things about the next couple, but the first three are brilliant. But this is the one that I think is really like the record. Just for weirdness, for being lo-fi, for like rocking, you know? But then also just being fucking nuts on like Sister Ray. The Gift is a little bit tedious, I'll be honest, you know? But like Lady Godiva's Operation is great. Fucking every song on this thing is awesome, man. White Light, White Heat. Hell, even David Bowie covered that shit, right? And this is one of those bands where, you know, the old like cliche is that everyone listened to the Beatles. Barely anybody listened to the Velvet Underground, but everyone who did listen to the Velvet Underground went and started their own band, you know? And I love those bands. Like, I actually had an idea for a book. I was really coming up with book titles, okay? There's never any substance to this. But I was thinking I'd write a book called All My Favorite Bands Are Velvet's Ripoffs. You know, and it'd be like about the Cleveland shit, about all sorts of shit. You know, I could have worked Venom in there if I were so inclined. So, but definitely the Cleveland stuff, man. Like the Rocket from the Tombs, the Mirrors, that kind of shit. You got the Twinkies with a similar sort of vibe going on. Simply Saucer. All right, so let's go overseas now. How are we doing on time here? The Isaac screen. Is that fucking piece of skin hanging off of that piece of dried skin? That's why I've been playing so much Isaac. Actually, it's also because I drove all night the other night too, but Isaac's a better story. Maybe. Alright, here's another one. Can. Total cornerstone for me, man. I could say that Can prepared me for jazz, but that wouldn't be really true as far as my personal trajectory goes. It was really black metal that did that. I made a video about that a while back. As far as Can goes, I mean, let me tell you how I found out about Can, actually. So you remember in the 80s, there were these books that would sort of circulate about like how like all rock music was satanic, and like even the Jesus stuff was like secretly gonna like get you into hell and shit like that. When I was living in Germany, there was one going around. It had the picture of Ozzy from the cover of Volume 4 on there, and it was called Wir wollen nur deine Seele, which means we just want your soul, like the line from Cornucopia. And in that book, they spent like a paragraph. I mean, of course, they were obsessed with AC/DC and Ozzy Osbourne because they all were, depending on, no matter which side of the Atlantic they were on. Those were like big boogeymen, right? But they spent like a paragraph on Slayer, a paragraph on Venom, and they spent like 10 pages on this band I'd never heard of called Can. Like they had all these weird stories about how like shit like one time they started practicing and this clock in the studio stopped, and like when they finished playing, like the clock started again. And just like all this weird like ooga booga shit like that. You know what I mean? No doubt it was mostly bullshit. In this same book, I'll never forget this. It said in the gatefold of "We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll," the Black Sabbath compilation, that the inside gatefold had a nude woman with a dagger stuck in her chest. I mean, if you've ever held that album in your hands, you know that's just bullshit. It's just fucking not true and like very easily verifiable. So that's how credible this shit was, right? But I was still curious who the hell it was, this band that they were so outraged by. So eventually, some time went by. I found a copy of Monster Movie. Actually, I got the copy of Monster Movie and Limited Edition, and I think Saw Delight at Record Revolution on the east side of Cleveland, which apparently isn't there anymore. And hands off, it's Mom's copy. And I took it home, and it was like this weird sort of jammy stuff. Dawn Watcher, man, we're gonna do it. There's this weird jammy stuff that I didn't get right away, right? But I listened to it a few times, it made more and more sense, you know what I mean? So there's a special place in my heart for Monster Movie, because that was really kind of my first one, and Malcolm Mooney was just a fantastic singer. But the ones I probably reach for the most often are, I don't know, man. There are a lot of them. It's usually this one, though, Ege Bamyasi, or Tago Mago I reach for a lot. And Monster Movie I still reach for a lot. Monster Music, the guitar sound is really dated in a way that it isn't in some of these other ones, you know? But again, it's just a completely different approach to, like, how a band could work, you know what I mean? It's one of these records that sort of stretched my imagination as far as like what a band could do and what a band could sound like, you know? Makes sense that Deep Purple, and for that matter Black Sabbath, came before these guys, right? But they all sort of played their own part in my development. Alright, so we're talking about all these good bands here. Let's talk about a shitty one. We're going to talk about the Fugs. Alright. This is the Fugs' first album, as you can see there. I actually have two different versions of this. It came out a couple different times with a couple different covers. There's this one here too, thanks to Metal Ron actually. But yeah, the first Fugs album this is. 1965, and look at all these fucking people on it. This record is like, how shitty can a band be and still be a band? And the answer is pretty fucking shitty. I played this record a lot, man. Like, the musicianship on this is dog shit. They do this shit where they like have like poems like by like fucking William Blake and shit. A.C. Swinburne that they like work into this shit. And it's just dumb as fuck. My favorite song here is probably Nothing. It says melody traditional, words by Julie Kupferberg. I just couldn't believe this shit was real. And I couldn't believe that this shit was real so far ahead of like what I was even like aware of, like as, you know, a teenager who's just getting into rock music. Like, you know, this is Beatles era shit. Fucking 65. And then of course, since it was on the ESP label, like I was curious about these records, but you know, a lot of it's jazz and I wasn't really into jazz yet. So I checked out the ones that I thought I'd probably dig, like well, I gave a chance to this one right there, The Coach with Six Insides. Boring fucking record, man. Where there's the one record that came out on the label where they just sing in Esperanto. Never sought that one out, but this East Village other one I did, another boring one, man. But when I got into jazz in a serious way, I was like, well, shit, man, I've got to hear all that ESP shit. So almost everything else that's pictured on the back here, I've reissues of most of them, but I have almost all these, man. Fucking Giuseppe Logan, Paul Bley, obviously Sun Ra, fucking even Bob James with his not very good, honestly, avant-garde record. Albert Eiler is like a totem to me these days, too. Henry Grimes, Noah Howard, dude. I fucking love Noah Howard. Sonny Murray. So yeah, the back cover of this ended up being almost as influential as the actual record itself, but not quite, man, because the Fugs, once again, it was one of those where I was like, I can't believe a band can sound like this. You know? I'll show this cover again too, just to balance it out. Gone through here. Well, it doesn't fucking matter. I'll just keep going as long as I have shit to talk about. So, next up, actually, is a band that, let's finish here. This is one of those bands that I listened to a lot and really had a lot of influence on me for a while. But by the time I finished college, I was already kind of sort of done with them. And there's still a special place in my heart for this band, and I have the record still, obviously. But I'm actually going to show the one that's the biggest flex. Because the band is Negative Land. If you know your Negative Land, you know what this is. I actually saw Negative Land live once when I was still in Cleveland, and it turns out that Bill from Bill's Box of Sound was at the same show. Now, these guys were like a tape collage band, basically. There was like some instrumentation, there's some music playing, but there's also all this weird shit that some guy like would just like pull off of like ham radio and shit like that. Like the Weatherman was one of the guys, right? And they did all this shit with tapes. It's really weird, kind of funny, and sometimes too funny for their own good, like on this record, honestly. The first one I heard that really kind of blew my mind was Escape from Noise. And a lot of that one really is pretty jokey. But a lot of it just fucking smokes too, man. Like songs like Car Bomb or Christianity is Stupid. My favorite might be Time Zones, though. You know what I mean? Anyway, again, a band that like sort of stretched my ideas of what a band could sound like. And yeah, man, Negative Land. Shout out to my friend Bill Davis for putting me onto these guys back when I was still in high school. Saw them at Peabody's Down Under in Cleveland, and well, obviously before I moved to San Francisco, probably early 90s, like 91, 92, 93, somewhere there. Great show. And they did some really weird, like, creative shit. Like, the first Negative Land record, every single cover is different. Like, I had it on CD, and now I have it on record, and, like, both the covers are different, because they actually handmade all of them. And it's not like it's a limited edition or something particular. I mean, I don't know how many there are out there. My copy's like 1,300 and something. It's not like 100 run or something. It's just, they took the trouble to make them all themselves, you know? Actually, I met my wife in the record store where I was working in the early 90s. And she was looking for Brandenburg Concertos, and I was like, check out this CD, because it was all CDs then, right? Check out this one conducted by Casals, it's probably good, you know? But she also wanted to hear something like she had never heard before. And we had a copy of a Big 10-8 Place by Negative Land in there. And I was like, this might be a little much, okay? But here, take this one. I'm pretty much willing to guarantee you've never heard anything like it before. And I gave her a return okay on it, which meant she could return it for full credit, because I knew she'd hate it. And then when she came back to return it, I get to see her again. So, it worked out pretty well. Alright, so let's go for another obvious one. Fucking Misfits, man. So most of my rare Misfits records are old boots. Like, I have a really early boot of Beware that's... I know how to tell the difference between that and an original, but just walking off the street, you might not. This is an original of this one. And this is actually one of the first records I bought when I moved to San Francisco. Just found it at a shop there. It's got a little bit of water damage, which is a shame, but It also has the original Fiend Club flyer in it. Ironically, this is the last record of theirs that I got. So in a way, this is the one that was sort of the least influential. But man, sort of like the Fugs. I actually got into the Misfits before the Fugs. The Fugs were like sloppy and kind of shitty. The Misfits were just really, really simple. You know, AC/DC's simple, but like it's really good musicians playing that shit. So like, it's not necessarily simple to reproduce. This was shit I could play, and I don't claim to be able to play guitar or anything else. And that just blew me away. It was inspiring as far as like, you know, my own bands that I was hoping to start at the time. Not by the time I got this. Like when I was younger, I still had a group of bands, but of having my own band, you know. But yeah, it's a band, you know, again, I listen to them a lot. And I still pull these out maybe once a year and enjoy them a lot. I mean, the Misfits, metaphysically speaking, are a favorite band, you know. Not one I reach for very often, but one that was super important to me. And again, belongs in my personal canon. Alright. Well, there are a couple obvious ones still here, so I think I'm going to leave them and do a part 2 of this, especially if y'all are interested in this sort of thing. But, yeah, the canon, you know, it's like there's the canon, you know. I actually thought about pulling a Stones record. Maybe I will pull a Stones record last time. I spent a lot of time listening to the Stones, although I was probably never as big a Stones fan as some of you other motherfuckers out there. But, yeah, you know, there's a certain sort of, like, what are, like, I also want to say the Desert Island record. It's really not. It's like, the records were, like, if you dissected my brain after I, like, died or something, and you, like, dug around in there to see, like, what the foundation was of, like, all this shit that I've gotten into, you know. Records like this that I've been fucking listening to, this Billy Woods record, which may seem really far away from the shit, but if you want to like get way down to the roots and like what sort of laid the groundwork for all this other shit that I would discover later before I got into jazz and shit, you'd be finding the Misfits and the Fugs and the Velvets and Negative Land. Yeah. So, shout out to Dawn Watcher for keeping us company for that last little bit. I think we're going to call it there. Thanks for watching. Opinions welcome in the comments. I respond to the comments. And, yeah, I don't want to, like, make a thread out of this or anything like that. But if anyone else is interested in this topic, I'd be happy to see what y'all do, too, in your own videos. So, little encouragement from here. You know, sort of the baseline bands. What are the ones that really sort of define your taste in music, you know? All right, thanks for watching and for indulging this bullshit I'm doing here. See you next time.